For the treat line of effort, the Army Corps of Engineers is working with state governments in 13 states and will reach 18 by this evening to provide planning and concept development on behalf of FEMA to increase bed space and support the augmentation and enhance medical response.
Can we get a quick update on New York?
Sure.
So, Barbara, before I talk about a specific state, I think it's important to kind of lay out our concept here because you've not heard this, and we're going to talk about this a lot probably in the next couple of weeks. First of all, the Corps of Engineers obviously works for DOD and anything we need to do there, but we also here are actually representing FEMA under direct mission assignments that states send to FEMA and then send back down to me for taskers. This is an unbelievably complicated problem, and there's no way we're going to be able to do this with a complicated solution. We need something super simple. So our concept here is a standard design. This is the approved design. It's already been through HHS, briefed the members of the White House, and through FEMA. What we want to do is we want to go into existing facilities primarily. Places that are out there, and I'm mainly going to talk and make it simple, hotels, college dormitories, and perhaps large spaces. So I'll give you an example of a small room and a large room. What we need to do is we need to go in there. These hotels are empty. The people don't have jobs. We would go in and cut a contract to be able to have the state set up a lease with that particular facility, and then we would then take the building over in a period of exceptionally short amount of days, and we would go in and turn this into an ICU-like facility. So there's really 4 different phases. The state has to nominate the facilities in a prioritized order, and I'll talk about Governor Cuomo in a minute. Number 2 is the Corps of Engineers has to come in and to be able to modify for that facility. And we can go into more details and other questions, but it goes back to be able to change the pressure in certain hotel rooms to be able to have a negative pressure in a hotel room. The third thing is then you've got to be able to put the supplies in that. And FEMA, working with HHS, is come up with a list that every single hotel room would get the same amount of supplies. It would just go in and all right be there. And then the fourth step is to be able to staff it. This has to be a state job. The state has to put the people in there. You got to clean it and train it. And therefore, just think, you've all been in hotels. Think of the second floor of a standard hotel. The rooms would be like a hotel room, and then we would build nurses stations in the halls. We would have all of the equipment wireless going into the nurses station so you could monitor how those are going to work. Now, let me correlate this back to New York. We want to use New York as the standard setter. And when I met with Governor Cuomo, he said right up front, what can I do? And I said, the biggest thing you need to do is start identifying facilities. And he said, how fast do you need them? I said, I need 1 tonight. I need 3 by tomorrow night. So we actually got turned on by the governor. We got money from FEMA to go into buildings on Tuesday night. We did the Javits Center yesterday, and we were into some of the SUNY schools yesterday. Today, my engineers were walking through 10 other buildings. 5 of those are hotel-like capabilities, and 5 of those are open spaces to be able to continue to be able to figure out what does right look like. And then we give this design to a contractor, and then he site adapts that design. If it's a hotel with 4 floors, they change a little bit different. If it's got central air, we change it. But the bottom line is we've got to do something very, very quick. Most of the governors are saying that their peak is somewhere around the middle of April. So this is not take all the time in the world to do it. This is what is just barely the most important things we have to do and to be able to come up with a good enough solution. And I'll leave it there, and we can talk later in more detail.
Very briefly, do you have the money you need to do this?
Right now, money is not a problem at all. FEMA has given us the capability, and the Secretary talked about the 13 other states. That's why we're there. We're asking those governors tonight, what are your priorities? I'm in 50 states. My guys are. We can go into other states right now and continue to be these same type assessments as we need to. And I'll defer back to the Secretary. Yep. So to answer your question, right now, we're with help from the HHS, we're calculating what the curves are when they go exponential in all these key cities. And we can't do everywhere, so we're really asking for the federal government to be able to help prioritize our efforts with FEMA to be able to send us to the right place. This has to be weeks. This can't be months. So it's going to go in, like I said, it's going to be the good enough solution to be able to do this, and it's all going to be working concurrently. But we'd like to think that we can do this in 3 to 4 weeks and try to go as fast as we can. Now, here's the big thing, though. What we want to do is we want to have a standard contract. We're already designing these contracts right now. We're already talking to industry. President Trump said yesterday on TV, you know, when things get going tough in America, everybody rallies. So this is when the contractor base, we need our engineering contractors to be able to step up, the hotel industry to be able to step up. And here's the critical power in this idea. What we want to do is be able to give our products to states. And if states want to do this on their own and contract by themselves, we're giving you something that is an HHS validated concept concept, and you don't have to wait on the Corps of Engineers. You can do this independently, even to the point where go back and be able to try to secure that money through FEMA. So this goes back to where we need everybody going full bore to be able to figure out where is that bed space capacity delta there, and then how can everybody pull together to be able to make this happen. You asked about numbers. Every state, I'm sure, is right in the process of trying to figure this out. That's why the Secretary talked about talking to these governors and trying to get this. We don't know exactly what they are. The main thing is really two variables we're looking at. We're looking at is what is the slope of the curve of how many people are getting sick, and then what is the shortage of actual beds in that particular city. You might have a city with, there's one I won't mention, but it's actually got a pretty high slope of a curve, but they've got an awful lot of brand new hospitals, and they've got pretty good capability to be able to do that. The other thing I didn't talk about a lot of detail was this idea of the big concept. We want to try to go into the hotel dormitory, but we do have the ability to go in and do a convention center. That's a little bit easier to do, but it's not quite the same level of care that we really want to do. We want to do this right and do this deliberate. And this goes back to, again, we can't do everything. We've got to somewhere be able to draw the line. And the more that the states can figure out how to do this by themselves, then that takes so much more burden off, so then we can be asked to go in to those states that maybe don't have that capacity.
So I know that you can't give us specific numbers, but at least for New York, where you were there on the ground, have you gotten an indication? Are you talking about hundreds of rooms you're converting, thousands of rooms?
We're talking about over 10,000 that we are looking at right now. We need to send that up, and in fairness to the state of New York, that is not my decision. That has to go to FEMA. FEMA has to make a decision of what is that allocation, and then we will exercise whatever FEMA tasks us to do.
And then lastly, how do you convert a room to negative pressure?
I'm going to make it super simple. It's actually the little tiny unit. That's why we like hotel rooms. Almost every hotel room has a little tiny unit back in the corner. And actually, it is a self-contained for that particular room. You actually want to bring the pressure down 2 or 3 psi, and you actually adjust that unit to be able to suck more air out down through the bathroom vent to be able to have a negative pressure. On the door, you put a great big piece of plastic with a zipper on it. So you zip in, you go into the room. We can go into more details, but I don't want to bore you. But it's a relatively simple process, and if we can't use the existing unit, we're going to rip it out and put another one back in that's a higher pressure. We're trying to suck the air down so we have a negative pressure.
Okay, how much money did FEMA give Corps of Engineers on Tuesday? Have there been any other allocations since Tuesday? How many facilities does it include? Like, can you give us the hard stats out of what they
So I'm going to keep this really short. Secretary's asked me to be available next week to be able to do a facility-only press conference, and I can ask her more of these questions there. FEMA gave us $1 million, but they basically said, whatever you need, you keep coming back for the planning piece. So that's why we're in states right now doing all the planning. The only actual list I have today is of New York, but that's why these states are coming back, and once I know more, that I'll lay all this out for you. Where's the buildings, how many facilities, and what's this look like?
How many facilities do you have right now that are being
Right now, 12 facilities that we're working at. Today, they'll be done by today, 12.
Okay, thanks.
What else you got?
That's okay.
You good?
Generals,
Here we go.
Okay.
General Seminar, just one quick one. I know this is the Army leadership information, but I'm wondering, are you coordinating with the other services? I'm thinking of the Seabees. Are you working with them? They get out there and bang some nails.
We definitely are when it comes to DoD missions. I basically do most of my work in this lane under FEMA, where some of the other services don't have that. So while the other services can certainly do things on military installations, when it comes to FEMA missions, I basically do that with the Corps of Engineers only.
Can you list what other states have asked for the hospital plan?
It's too long a list right now. I can lay that out. I'm in the process of making a matrix of all 50 states, the territories as well. Who are we talking to? What do we think the requirement is? We just aren't there yet. We're getting all this stuff in every single day. We're looking very hard at California, the state of Washington. We've already been to New Jersey, and we're working our way around the states that are coming back, and we're really looking at where's the biggest demand, so we go to those states first.